Hello, it's Brother Gerald, YouTube philosopher. And today we continue with sacrifice as a concept. In the last episode, I left you guys with a cliffhanger where here it is, we're talking about back in the Garden of Eden. At the moment that Adam and Eve both had eaten from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, their eyes were open. And then they discovered themselves to be naked. And I just want to first talk about this description of the opening of the eyes. Now, as subtle and as the Bible puts this thing in plain sight, I think that sometimes we hide, or God hides truths in literally plain sight, but the only way we're able to get it and to be able to understand it is to be able to just sit and meditate and think. And I really think that for anyone watching this particular episode, that if you hadn't thought about the answer, what I'm going to ask you to do is to pause the video right now before I give you the answer and just think, what did God mean? What was he trying to say when he basically said, and their eyes were open? And write them down and think about the answer that I'm going to give you, because I think the answer I'm going to give you is pretty simple. It makes a lot of good sense, and you'll truly be able to understand what I'm talking about. So pause the video just for a minute, and we'll continue after you've made some notes to see if your thinking caps are as good as mine, I guess, because this question kind of stuck in my brain for many years, and now God has seen fit to bless me with the answer, and the answer was just in plain sight, and it's something that I discovered. Now, am I going to get a Nobel Prize for discovering that which has been hidden, and really hidden in very plain sight? No, I probably won't. Am I going to get credit like, oh gosh, Jerry is such a intelligent man? Well, I may not get public acknowledgement of it, but you know what? I guarantee you that in my dealing with people and my dealings here in business and every other arena that human beings endeavor to interact in, I guarantee you there will be a blessing. And I mean a blessing where I'm going to stand out. I'm going to become peculiar. I'm going to become conspicuous. I'm going to be like the way these entertainers are conspicuous. Like, I see my kids. I have two sons, and I also have two nephews that I raised, and so I call all of my four boys my sons. So I have four sons, and all of them seem to be aspiring to be entertainers in some form or another. Three of them want to be rappers, and one wants to be a dancer. And I would say the one who's a dancer, he's exercised extreme discipline and focus that, to me, I'm very admiring, and I wish him all the best. But the other three seem to want to be entertainers like rappers. And what's driving them to be rappers is the conspicuous success of current rap entertainers. Like, there's an entertainer named Drake, And he's produced so many songs, so many albums, and he's making a whole bucket load of money. And so they're aspiring to be conspicuous. But the odd thing about what they're doing is nothing as far as what Drake did to get to where he's at. So they're trying to imitate success of an individual, but they're not actually putting into practice the very things that that young man had to do to get what he has. So I would ask for these young men to really think about what they're doing, because if you call yourself doing something different than what was prescribed in order to get something accomplished, you're not going to achieve a similar or even a remotely similar result. But anyway, getting back to this idea of the opening of the eyes. Well, the whole thing was, going back to the story before Adam and Eve were confronted with this opportunity to deviate from what God had prescribed and, commanded them to do. Now, the thing is, God commanded them. He says, you shall not eat from this tree, because in the day that you do this, you will surely die. It's certainty that God promises. And God is not one to lie. So here it is. He's commanded this, but we're free to disobey the command, or we're free to honor the command. And our ancestors, Adam and Eve, freely chose to disobey. Just as we freely choose to disobey, we freely choose to think that our society is so much better than others, because here it is, we're free to choose to remain rebels against God and to think God is going to be okay with it. And so they eat of this tree, the fruit of this tree, and their eyes were open. But their eyes weren't closed. Was it a sour tasting fruit to where, they're eating it and their eyes, they're like, oh, they're squinting their eyes. Oh, I can't, it's such a bitter. And now their eyes are open and they are looking around, and they're no longer seeing the giraffe. They're no longer seeing the lion. They're no longer seeing each other the same way that they saw each other before. No, I don't think it was a visual experience that these people were encountering. I would say that what they were encountering was the experience of evil. Their eyes were open to the experience of rebellion. Their eyes were open to understand what it means to be cut off from a good, perfect, complete relationship that they had formerly enjoyed with the God that made them, that created this world, that created the heavens, the earth, and fortified this planet with animals, plants, food that would nourish humans, that would nourish these animals, air that would provide the constant moment-to-moment sustaining energy for the body to exist. So God did all these wonderful things, and he created man to be in harmony with his thinking as well as his relating to man. And so, you can't relate to someone that's doing good to you if you're not being good. You can't relate to somebody who's evil when you're not evil. There's going to be what they call disharmony in that relationship. And so their eyes were open to the disharmony of relationship. And they discovered that they were both naked. Now, the funny thing is, in all the years that I've lived on this earth, I've never seen my face directly. I've seen it reflected in mirrors. I've seen it reflected in the water. If I'm looking at a calm, undisturbed surface of water, I think I can see my reflection. I've seen my reflection in the eyes of people. If I get close enough, I can literally see my reflection in the eyeball of another person. And so here it is. We're in a situation where our eyes are being opened to see. Now, the funny thing is, the Bible says that they saw that they were naked. But before they ate of this fruit, they couldn't see their nakedness because they hadn't experienced getting out of harmony with a righteous and holy God. And so here it is. These two creatures are now out of harmony with God, and now they're really out of harmony with each other because they're seeing that, man, you're naked. You're exposed. You are like a criminal that is caught stealing. They're exposed. They're discovered. And so now we're able to see behaviors having a moral component to them. We're able to see how actions have an implication of a value of right and wrong. Because think about it, if Adam and Eve had remained in harmony to what God had told them to do, they never would have been exposed as being naked, and they never would have been exposed as being rebels. They never would have been running away from God's voice when he calls, because that was the very next thing that happened in the story. What happened in the story after that was that Adam and Eve hid from God because God was coming. And who knows, it might have been an appointed time where God is coming in the cool of the day to hang out with his loving creation. But here it is, they're hiding from him now. And so they were able to see and understand through their experiences just what being a rebel, being evil, and now they're exposed. They don't have any, they're out of harmony with the God that had provided them all these wonderful protections and things. And now here it is, he's coming. So, when he came before, there was never any fear of him coming, but now all of a sudden they're afraid. Why are they afraid? Because they're naked, they're exposed. So I just think that that's a very insightful view, and I thank God for giving me the insight to see it. And here it is. I'm using the same word that he gave me the insight to see. So we can see in other terms other than visually seeing. We can see in terms of understanding a concept, an abstract concept, immaterial things like, so here it is, you go to court and the judge, he's there, the jury's there, and you have these two forces and they're explaining their story. And here it is, you're trying to see the truth. You're trying to see whether or not you're going to exact justice in a particular way, or whether you're going to declare the person guilty or innocent based on your seeing what both sides are saying, and you're going to weigh what they're saying and make a decision. So this is what I'm saying, and this is what I think the Bible is conveying, and the Bible is very clear conveying it. So with that, we're going to continue because I'm going to extend this sacrifice as a concept into one more episode, maybe 3, I don't know. But I'm going to beat it up a little bit more to where hopefully you guys can understand exactly what God is saying and what God is demonstrating in the sacrificial system. The system whereby which the ultimate sacrifice is paid by Jesus, by God, and he enables us to get to where we couldn't get on our own through that sacrifice. So I hope this video has been a blessing to you, and I really hope it has gotten you to think clearly, and ultimately receive a great blessing. Because like I said, that's what God has made us to enjoy, to receive blessings. And so with that, I depart. Peace to you all.